Hello, dear ones. Father Peter John coming to you from All Saints Orthodox Church in Bloomington, Indiana. Christ is in our midst. Today I want to talk to you about Saint Alexander Hotovitzky, an American saint who was actually born in Ukraine, came to America in his early 20s as a lay missionary, a lay evangelist. He came to preach the gospel and to teach, to educate Orthodox people and to try to work towards unity in the Orthodox Church in America. While he was here, he was ordained a priest and became the rector of St. Nicholas Orthodox Church in New York City. It was the Russian church. He served 18 years on American soil, not only working as the rector of his parish, but also working on publications to spread the gospel and to further educate the Orthodox people through writings. And he also worked to help and establish Orthodox churches in various cities, especially in the northeastern part of the country. So he worked quite a bit as a missionary and an evangelist. Well, after 18 years of a lot of hard work, he was asked to, or sent, should I say, sent overseas to serve a church in Helsinki, Finland. He served there for 3 years, and then came 1917, the Bolshevik Revolution. So his former bishop in America, Saint Tikhon of Zadonsk, had now become the Patriarch of Moscow. And he wanted his priest, Father Alexander Hotovitzky, to come and work together with him in Moscow during this Bolshevik period. So, what they were working to do was this. The Bolsheviks actually were being very sneaky. They were being very divisive. They were trying to pit the church against the poor. They were trying to drive a wedge between the Russian people and the Holy Orthodox Christian Church. So what they did was this. The Bolsheviks said, we're going to take the holy articles from the church that are gold-plated and stuff, for example, chalices or gospel books that have a gold cover on them, or icons, things like this. We're going to take them, and then we're going to distribute the money from these things to the poor. Of course, what they expected was that the Orthodox Church would object, and then they would say to the poor, see, the church doesn't love you, they don't want to feed you. But what St. Tikhon did was, as the Patriarch of Moscow, what he did was, he said, we should make a large monetary donation to the poor to help alleviate the suffering of those who are hungry. But the Bolsheviks, of course, were not happy with this. This was going to foil their plan. So they began taking the articles from the church, and the church leaders rightfully suspected that this was not necessarily going to feed the poor. This money was going elsewhere. It was lining the pockets of those in charge. So Saint Alexander Hotovitzky began to work with the Metropolitan and some of the other clergy to draft legislation that would guarantee that any articles that were taken from the church, any holy objects that are taken from the church to feed the poor, actually had to go to feed the poor. That had to be something that could be proven so that they could track that money and make sure that that's where the money from the sale of these articles was going. Well, of course, then St. Alexander is accused of treason, undermining the government, trying to overthrow the officials, and so he was imprisoned. That was in 1920. Then in 1921, he was imprisoned again. In 1923, these charges came up again, and this time he was sentenced to 10 years in prison. They let him out after a year, thank God, but then they exiled him to 3 years in the outskirts, middle of nowhere, Russia. After those 3 years, he came back, continued to try to work for the church, to bring about peace and unity, to try to serve the people. Finally, in 1937, after a wonderfully pious childhood in Ukraine, after 18 years of serving selflessly in America, and then spending the rest of his life in and out of prisons, in and out of exile, under persecution, for the sake of Christ and the church. Father Alexander was condemned to death, martyrdom, for his love of Christ, his commitment to the church, and his refusal to back down from the truth. So Saint Alexander truly, I believe, watches over this flock in America. We should continually ask him for his prayers, his intercessions. He's been here, he knows us, he knows our country, he knows our sufferings, and he knows our difficulties. And his desire is that the church would be built up in America and throughout the world to the glory of God. Through the prayers of Saint Alexander, O Lord Jesus Christ, our God, have mercy upon us and save us. Christ is in our midst. He is and ever shall be.